Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Album 1986 review series, where on the 24th day of every month of 2026 I will handpick and discuss one jazz album that was released in 1986. So whether it's a favourite album of mine or an important album or an album that some might not be aware of, everything will be up for grabs, and this will be part of a countdown leading up to my 40th birthday, where this monthly review series will conclude on December 24th, 2026, where I will count down from the bottom all the way to the top every single album that I discussed throughout 2026. And I will throw in a couple of honourable mentions as well. So we kicked off this monthly review series back in January 24th, 2026, where I discussed the self-titled debut album of the Chick Corea Electric Band. And on February 24th, 2026, I discussed Special Effects Slice of Life. And on March 24th, 2026, I discussed Yellow Jackets Shades. And on April 24th, 2026, I discussed Pat Metheny and Ornette Coleman Song X. And I mentioned at the end of that edition that for the next edition of this series, I am going to be discussing another album that came out in 1986. And this time, it's going to be an album that is a little bit underrated, but it is held by many as an absolute classic. And this album shares a very deep connection to the legendary Pat Metheny, which of course is no surprise because this musician in particular played a huge role in not only Pat Metheny's music, but shaping his overall sound. And in many ways, you could say that this musician helped put Pat Metheny on the map. These two together co-founded the Pat Metheny Group many years ago, back in 1977, and this musician co-composed virtually all of the Pat Metheny Group's music, and he played such a huge role in helping to shape the iconic sound of PMG. And whenever you heard PMG, you knew straight away it was them. And a lot of that is because of this musician in particular. And the gentleman I am talking about needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only legendary pianist slash keyboardist and composer Lyle Mays. And this is his self titled debut album that came out in 1986 on Geffen Records, and it's simply called Lyle Mays. So this is the self-titled debut album of Lyle Mays, and Lyle Mays steps out of the shadows of PMG and releases his first ever album under his name. And as you'd expect from Lyle Mays, it's absolutely fantastic. It is a little bit underrated. Maybe some people might not be aware of, but long-time fans know about this album and they have looked at it and referred to it as an absolute classic. And it's not hard to disagree with that. I look at this album as an absolute classic. And when you listen to this album, you really get a full understanding of how much of an important role Lyle Mays played in the music of PMG. Now, I have always said that I truly believe that Pat Metheny would have been successful regardless, but Lyle Mays really helped put Pat Metheny over and really helped put him on the map in a huge way. And the music of Lyle Mays' self-titled debut album, you can hear a lot of the PMG influences, which of course is no surprise because Lyle Mays was such a dominant part of PMG's sound and music. But the self-titled album, you know, you can't really call it, the Pat Metheny group, because musically, while the PMG influences are very strong, it's completely worlds away from what PMG were doing, and it's so far removed from anything that Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays made together. It's got influences of Celtic, Asian, there's fusion, there's chamber, new age, which is quite prominent throughout this album. You name it. There's even a little bit of rock in there as well somewhere. There's even classical influences. This album has got it all and more. And this is very much the Lyle Mays show. And what I mean by that is, it's not a case of Lyle Mays just hogs it all. Obviously, he gets a huge say in soloing. It's a true band effort, much like the Pat Metheny group. Yes, Pat Metheny is the main guy, but everyone plays their parts and does their job really well. And with the Lyle Mays self-titled debut album, that's exactly what it is. It's a true band effort. No one takes a back seat. Everyone does their job and they do it really well. And of course, when you're a great musician like Lyle Mays, you assemble a top shelf band. And what Lyle Mays has put together here in terms of talent is very impressive. So we have got Lyle Mays on piano, keyboards, and alto harp, the amazing Alex Acuna on drums, Billy Drews on alto and soprano saxophones, an amazing player, Bill Frisell on guitar. Now, at the time this album was recorded and released, Bill Frisell was kind of an unknown commodity. He had already put out an album under his name years earlier prior to this release, but he wasn't really the big name that we would know him to be now. So he was kind of like the unknown commodity, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Bill Frisell is an outstanding guitar player and he is the perfect foil for Lyle Mays, and he really plays a big part on this album. And I have gone on record to say that out of everything that Bill Frisell has done, and he's done a lot of good albums throughout his legendary career, I still say to this day his best guitar playing was on Lyle Mays' self-titled album. He just absolutely rips it up, and he's a very different guitar player to Pat Metheny. Whereas Pat Metheny, of course, was all about compositions and the melodies, Bill Frisell, he provides a lot of sound. He creates a lot of layers and a lot of different textures and, different parts, and really knows how to fill out the sound. And he just sounds absolutely amazing. And we've got the incredible Mark Johnson on bass, one of the all-time great bass players. He's played with just about everyone. And then, of course, we got Nana Vasconcelos on percussion, who was Lyle Mays' bandmate in PMG back in the early years between 1981 to 1982. And he was featured on three outstanding albums: Off Ramp, Travels, and As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls. And you can really hear him bringing some of his influence from those legendary recordings to the music of Lyle Mays. And of course, all of the compositions are written and composed by Lyle Mays. And top to bottom, this is a tremendous album. So we got the opener, Highland Air, which is kind of like this Celtic sort of inspired track. The piano work is excellent. The way the saxophones and the guitars blend together in unison to create this very unique voice in the front line is just absolutely incredible. And it sounds like one big instrument. It's just absolutely amazing. And we even get the sound of bagpipes at the end of this album track. Just unbelievable. And then we got the dark and menacing Tico, which has got a lot of Asian influences. It sounds like massive drums crashing. It's just absolutely incredible. And the middle section with Lyle Mays synths is just absolutely brooding. You can really hear that PMG influence. It's just absolutely incredible. And speaking of PMG, we've got perhaps the most PMG track of the entire album, Slink. And you can really hear the influence of the Pat Metheny group very clearly. It's fast, it's slow, hard hitting, epic, you name it, massive scope. It's all here, very cinematic, just fantastic. And Slink could have easily fitted in very nicely on a PMG album because it's got a lot of the PMG influence. The piano work, the auto harps, the guitars, everything about it is just absolutely amazing. Now, the second half of this album, in a way, I look at it like it's just one big suite. So we got Mirror of the Heart, which is a solo piano piece and really channels in the spirits of the legendary Bill Evans. There's influences of Chick Corea and Keith Jarrett. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And then we got the big 14-minute epic, which is like kind of like the centerpiece of the entire album, the Alaskan Suite, which is made up of three parts. Northern Lights, which is more like an intro, with little sounds of keyboards, and there's this big bass solo from Mark Johnson. And then we go straight into Invocation, which really sounds like you're standing on top of a mountain. And then you've got the sounds of wind blowing, and it sounds like someone playing a pipe on top of the mountain. It's just absolutely chilling stuff. And then we go straight into Ascent, which is probably the most rocky part of the entire Alaskan suite, with Bill Frisell just absolutely ripping it up on the guitar and just rocking the hell out of it. It's just absolutely amazing. And the Alaskan suite, it's made up of like three parts, but they're all so different, but they work so well together. And then we've got the closer, which is another solo piece, which is more electronics and keyboards, and that's Close to Home, which was originally played live by the Pat Metheny group in the early years, and it was originally called Mars. But it's nice to see it makes its recorded debut in the studio, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous track to close out this amazing album. And it's just absolutely beautiful. It's just classic stuff. As much as I love the PMG version of this track, I think just having Lyle Mays performing solo for this track is just absolutely incredible. And as I said, it's a beautiful closer and a great way to close out a debut album for Lyle Mays, in my opinion. If you wanted to make a first impression, I think Lyle Mays has done that and beyond. But the whole album, from top to bottom, is just an absolute masterpiece. And the standout tracks for me are Tico, Slink, Alaskan Suite Part 2, Invocation, Ascent, and Mirror of the Heart. But the whole album, from start to finish, is just an absolute masterpiece. Now, Lyle Mays' output of albums wasn't as strong as Pat Metheny's, so his catalogue is quite small-ish, but what Lyle Mays has is just fantastic. All of his albums are great, but for me, doesn't get any better than the debut album. It's just an absolute classic. And of course, as we all know, Lyle Mays is sadly no longer with us as he passed away in 2020. But boy, oh boy, what a first album he leaves behind with us. Just an absolute classic. So there you have it. Lyle Mays' self-titled debut album, a fantastic album from 1986 and one of the true standouts of that year. Just absolutely incredible. Doesn't get any better than this. So there you have it. Lyle Mays' self-titled debut album. Love it. So that's going to be it from me I'm going to wrap this up now. What's your thoughts on Lyle Mays' self-titled debut album? Did you enjoy it? What's your favourite track from that album? Is it Highland Air, Tico, Slink, Mirror of the Heart, the Alaskan Suite? What's your favourite part from the Alaskan Suite? Is it Northern Lights, Invocation, or Ascent, and Close to Home? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite tracks. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next month for another edition of the Jazz Album 1986 review series, where I will be discussing another jazz album that came out in 1986. So make sure you don't miss that. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.